philosophy. And question
Yeah.
three.
Watch us meander. Can you follow the breadcrumbs?
This is, oh my gosh, this is what happens when we talk, and we honestly need
Yeah.
more time.
Right.
But
As a quick palate cleanser before we get back into the game,
Sure.
I have taken just numerous pictures and videos. I'm going to show you a quick clip of my playthrough, and I want to highlight the fact how the game's moved from horizontal to verticality, and how it just looks great. I mean, this is a Switch game presumably near the end of its life cycle, so they are wringing every drop from the console to really show off what they can do. But those of you at home, this is just a quick taste of the game. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it's okay. God damn.
Okay, so this is the HUD system is identical. This is exactly the same as Breath of the Wild. The art style is the same, but there's just a little bit more polish to it. There's a little more detail.
I feel like the Mario movie with the Easter eggs.
Yeah. So activate here, and he plugs in his Switch.
Oh my god!
This is dragons in the background.
Oh wow! Look at that world. Wow, it's like Laputa. The phrase that's overused these days is something on steroids, which I've gotten tired of people saying. But it's a bit like Laputa on the next level. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So in the original game, you had towers you would have to go to, climb, activate, and it would reveal a part of the map. Well, this one, they are literal cannons. They shoot you into the air. So you can the first time you use it, you go, ooh, scan. Now you have the map. So you can look at it on the map. But they're also actual cannons. I use them for traversing to get into the clouds. They go up there and then float down onto higher cannons.
I get you. Yeah, it's a bit, a lot more freedom. You got these. It's not like, of course, like Mario 64. You have to. No, I mean not Mario 64, but it's not
it's the cannons from Mario 64 when they first released that game. Yeah, it's basically, hey, we have this thing, and you're able to launch yourself to inaccessible or far off locations on the map. I'm thinking Bob-omb's Tower.
Yeah.
There was a floating platform in that first world, and the only way to get to it is to go by cannon.
Gotcha.
And it's basically that writ large.
Open, yeah. It's like, again. So you got the Twilight Princess. I think there was a cannon to get to the Kingdom in the Sky or something, and you could only use it for that. Essentially, that's why it's linear. Whereas in this game, it's not like you go back to Mario 64 roots, and you could take that thing and shoot yourself to the bounding boxes of the world.
You shot vertically up, and then you free fall. The sky mechanics is basically you kind of skydive your way down. So you're like, I'm going that way, and skydive up in that direction. And as you fall, you can see, you get a bird's eye view everywhere. Where am I going to go next? Oh, there's a thing. Stop, snap, put a pin on my map. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. It really is. It's just beautiful.
Awesome, man. God, all right. I'm very excited. And all right, let me just crack on with the next question. I'll just fall into it's like Homer Simpson when he's dreaming about chocolate in that episode. Till the vending machine smashes on him.
He goes, eat, chocolate, half off.
God damn. Oh my god. Right,
classic Simpsons.
Sure. I got to do question 3. All right.
Yeah, question 3.
Actually, okay, now, The Legend of Zelda. Sorry, let me just sidebar that clearly. It's easier for me to cut. Question 3. Okay, there you go. Now, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. It features an expansive open world environment, like you just showed me. Now, how do the game's world design and exploration elements contribute to your enjoyment? Okay, you already started to say so, but you can expand. Were there any standout locations, by the way, or discoveries that impressed you so far?
Yes. In the first game, in Breath of the Wild, there were a selection of small ruins. They were referred to as the Zonai ruins. Okay. And there were other ruins that were clearly designed in the same style, but notably not of the Zonai. It looked like someone had mimicked Zonai design, but just done like a half-assed job. And most people would never even notice the difference. They would see the Zonai and the ruins. But we had no explanation to who they were. We had their name. The name endured, but even in the lore, it was like this giant black hole within the game. You could go to the Zonai ruins. Who are the Zonai? They've got cool artwork. Yeah. What about that place? Yeah, it's similar, but it doesn't work. But for years, people speculated, who are the Zonai? They were thought to be, the enemies of the Demon King. They were the warriors of the Demon King. They were the allies of the Hyruleans. They were the enemy of the Hyruleans. There was just a whole multitude of laws that came around, which, honestly, kind of fun speculating, because it was this chunk of history that you didn't know about. And it made the world feel a little bit more realistic, a little more lived in, Like, the story played out in Hyrule, and we had all the information, gathered as much information as we could, but there was just a lot we didn't know. Well, now the Zonai have come back. We get to know who they really are, who they were historically, because they're introduced right at the beginning. Literally, the first 2 minutes of the game, you see Zonai ruins. It gives you a chunk of the world's history, and you're like, oh, this is who they are. And you think, oh, wow, were they thinking about this from as far back? Or did they take the black hole and go, hey, what can we fit in here?
Oh, wow.
What can we build using this absence of knowledge? Because I think that's going to be a plot point, or at least an element for a lot of games moving forward. It's not just Zelda. There are other RPGs that are openly allowing chunks of their lore or chunks of their world building to be absent as kind of a sneaky avenue. It's basically leaving a back door in the computer. Hey, we want to go back in. We could build this world out through these holes, through these gaps in world history, because hell, even our own world history is spotty at best. History is recorded by the winners. And, as time's gone by, we've found a lot of the stories we once held true don't hold up because the evidence has disproven it. So it's interesting how these little elements within the first game have been used to build, used as the foundation for a brand new game. It makes the world feel truly connected, which is good when you're doing a direct sequel. You're like, hey, you're just building that world. So if you played both games together, you have a far more comprehensive understanding. If you were doing a let's play of Breath of the Wild, and I was popping in like, ooh, this is good. And you're like, what's that? I can't tell you, because it's not relevant until you play the next game.
Oh, I get damn. So, it can't. That's kind of it's a bit of a new thing to consider. So, continuity is going to play a big part in terms of how to digest Zelda going forward.
Maybe I think as I mentioned before, I think the third game is going to be the linchpin. Where if they do a third game that is part of the same continuity, then we know, okay, this is something they really committed to going forward. But right now, it feels like I've only just I've been playing it for the past week, so I've done a measure of the game, but I haven't nearly as much as I'd like. But it does feel like, hey, they want to cap off this chunk of the hair of the story. So they introduced elements in the first one, and now they're going to conclude those elements. Maybe this will be a nice two-parter, a joining acts, bookends to a wonderful story. But I don't know. Again, they're already bringing back old enemies in interesting new forms. But it's like, hey, we could have had some new enemies.
Interesting. My gosh. Okay. To be honest, I couldn't even expand on it that much because I need to play it. But okay. So therefore, I think what you just said is going to resonate with audiences who have played it at this point, and hopefully we'll get some follow up from them. Oh man, I wish I could expand, but unfortunately, there's some things I just can't imagine yet. So I have to wait until that I get it.
Yeah, it's the same. There's like a whole mess of TV shows that I haven't caught up on yet. I know it's almost blasphemous to say, but I haven't finished Game of Thrones. I only watched the first 4 seasons. Yeah, the last thing I watched was Sansa heading off to become Batman. That was it. That was the last time I saw it because my personal circumstances, I didn't have access to it. I didn't have TV and I didn't have DVDs. So I was like, all right, I'll catch up when I catch up. But I haven't because the series ended and everyone collectively flipped their shit, went ballistic about how terrible the ending was. So now I'm like, yeah, I don't want it to be ruined. For me, Game of Thrones is this beautiful, wonderful show of which I only know about a third. I've only seen like a third of it, or half of it, and the half I've watched is really, really, really good. Also, like Dexter, the TV show, fantastic show up until the latest seasons. But I haven't seen the latest seasons. I've only watched the earlier ones. Read all the books, but that's a different timeline.
All right. Well, from what you said, the game sounds like I'm gonna enjoy it. But yeah,
I absolutely recommend. But I had put a massive asterisk. Don't play Tears until you've played Breath.
Yeah.
But, if you play Tears of the Kingdom first, there are massive swaths of lore, of story, of characterization, of character development that you just won't get. You just won't understand because you don't have the grounding knowledge.
Gotcha. All right. In that case, all right, I'm gonna definitely put it on my bucket list. I mean, maybe it's already there, but I'm gonna put a big old urgent marker on it.
Just push it higher up on your back burner.
Yeah. All right.